Hey, and welcome into another episode of the Fat Guy Podcast. I'm the Fat Guy. Most people call me Brett. Thanks so much for hanging out today. I should have adjusted this before I began. Sorry if that made any noise. I knew I was going to be in this position for like 5 or 10 minutes. Duh. This is a documentation of my weight loss journey, and I'm happy to share what I've learned and my experiences and my knowledge. All that being said, disclaimer. I'm not a medical professional. I have no formal medical training. Anything I say in this podcast is strictly my opinion or my personal experiences. Nothing I say is intended as medical advice, dietary, or weight loss advice specific to you. You should always consult a doctor. Always. Always. Follow me on social media, Fat Guy Podcast on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. That's my username, Fat Guy Podcast. And you should also subscribe to the podcast, whether you're an Apple, you use Apple Podcast, or you use the Google Play, or however that works. All you got to do is search for Fat Guy Podcast, and you could subscribe. That way you'll never miss an episode. And if that's too complicated or stupid, which I thought it was when I first started listening to podcasts, I have the answer for you. It's the Spreaker app. It's the greatest app ever. I use it endlessly, and I understand Apple Podcasts, and I still use it. I love this app. Spreaker. It's a free app. You'll find my podcast on it. Once you download it, search for Fat Guy Podcast. You'll see me there. Hit the heart button, like, follow, subscribe. And not only can you see all and hear all new podcasts, but you can go back and look at all the old ones. So you can find a topic that interests you from a year ago if you want, and go back and listen to it. And the really great thing is not just me and my mediocre self on there. There's thousands and thousands of other podcasters on there, no matter what topic you like. I don't care what topic you're interested in. You're probably going to find somebody on there podcasting about it. Podcasting is my favorite form of edutainment. I like to listen to podcasts that educate me as well as entertain me. So, all that being said, let's jump right into it. So, we're undertaking a 21-day fast. I'm now coming in on a close of 7 days today. I haven't quite made it to 7 days on the fasting. I think I have 3 hours left. But I did just weigh, and it's been exactly 7 days since I weighed the first time. So I weighed, a few hours before I officially began my fast last Monday. So that's when I'm recording this on Monday. So in case I don't publish it today, that's why it may not match up to you. Heck, you may be listening to it 8 months from now on a Wednesday. That's the beauty of podcasting. So I have lost 10 pounds, 3 ounces in the first week. 10 pounds and 3 ounces. I have to tell you, I'm not personally that enthused about that. Now, I know a lot of people will say, what are you, crazy? You lost 10 pounds in a week. I really was hoping to lose close to a pound a day. So I was hoping it to, 2 pounds a day the first week. So that would have put it at, closer to 14 pounds. That being said, it was over a pound a day. And some of it early on was water. I think a decent amount of it was fat. So I'm going to talk about the experience. So people always ask what it's like fasting. This will be the longest fast that I've done, this 7 day mark, in a long time. I've done a 5-day fast, I did a 4-day fast, and I did a 6-day fast, all within the past, 3-4 months or something like that, 6 months. But 7 days is a new long for me now. A long time ago, back in the 90s, I think I did a 10-day fast or something. So I've hit a new spot, but I got to tell you, day 7 is really not that much different than day 4. Days 1, 2, and 3 are your issues. So I'm going to go through the 7 days with you, my experience, and the highs and lows and tips I may have for somebody considering this. So the first day is not going to be hard till the end of it. It's not going to be until you get to the 18 to 24 hour mark. Somewhere in the 18 to 24 hour mark, the old tummy's going to rumble and the hunger's going to come. And you're going to think, oh my God, how can I do this every day? So take heart. It won't be like that every day. That's not even hunger. There's a few things involved, but your body's on a cycle of something called ghrelin. And ghrelin gets used to when you eat. So if you eat 3 times a day, your body knows when to release ghrelin about three times a day, and it does it at the same time every day. It's the hunger hormone. Leptin is the fullness hormone. So when your body releases ghrelin, you're going to get hungry. But it releases it, it does its job, and then it will go away. Okay? So this is going to happen. The first couple times will be the worst, and that'll be starting, it just depends on the person, but it'll start around hour 18 to hour 24, somewhere on the first day. But it'll only be around for about 20 minutes, and then it'll let up. So that's all you got to survive is 20 minutes or less, and it'll let up. Now, it'll come back, and it'll come back a couple, 2, 3 more times in the first 2 days. But once you get to the end of the second day, you've got it knocked. The second day will probably be the worst day, because you only have to suffer with this part of the first day, the end of the first day. The second day, you could suffer with hunger on and off all day, primarily 3 times when ghrelin was released, but then also when you experience actual hunger, because you will. Now, I don't want you to confuse hunger with starving, because being hungry is the body's expectation, not the body's current situation. Okay? The body's expecting food because it's been living off of food that you've been eating for so long. It's expecting food. You know, after you get through day 2, things will get considerably easier on day 3. Now, by day 3, you may experience some mild hunger here or there, but day 3 is by far easier than day 2. And the great news is once you get through day 3, which isn't that bad, day 4 is when it starts and it's all good. And from day 4 on, you know, you may want food here, there, and yonder. You may have a mild nudging of hunger come along. But your body will be so used to readily going to your fat reserves. Like, I believe your body works in 3-day cycles. And I actually was just listening to a podcast by somebody that I highly respect, Dave Feldman, who does all these experiments on his body. And he has a group of other people that come together with him to do the same experiments. But they've discovered, like, when checking your cholesterol, it depends on what's happened the last 3 days. Getting blood work depends on what you've eaten the past 3 days. I believe the body works on a 3-day cycle. You get through the 3 days, that's when your body gives up. It's like, okay, well, we obviously have a situation here where there's not going to be any food incoming. I'm going to just readily go to the fat reserves, and I may occasionally request some food. But I'm basically just going to eat this fat that's been sitting here for 10 years. This food's been hanging around for 10 years, and this is the reason I've been saving up. And so it'll just readily go to that fat, and you'll just rarely feel hunger. Now, this is where we get to the part of where your major discomfort will come from if you don't stay ahead of it. And that's from electrolyte depletion and dehydration. It is very, very important that you stay on top of drinking water and stay hydrated, and that you replenish electrolytes. I don't think I can stress that enough. If you only choose to do one, and I say that because I know some people that do, it should be salt or sodium chloride. That's salt. That's table salt. There's an easy way to do salt. If you go on to Amazon and search for sodium chloride tablets, you'll be able to find tablets that are 1 gram each. 1 gram of sodium chloride each. And this makes it really easy to do salt because you're going to need 3 to 4 grams a day. Now, if you do what I do, mix it up and drink it in something, that's hard for some people to take. I've already liked salty stuff. So stuff that's mild to moderately salty I already enjoyed. And now I've got to where I love the salt drinks that I drink, which I'll talk about momentarily. But you can get those sodium chloride tablets. I think the name brand that I buy, and I do buy them and take them, especially when I'm eating, when I'm keto, because I only take a couple a day because I'm usually getting about 2,000 milligrams of salt in my diet, and so I only need to take about 2 of those tablets a day to get me to the 4,000 milligrams or 4 grams of salt that I like to have every day. I feel optimum there, and most people do. You probably will too. So you don't want to take all 4 of them at one time. That's bad. Take a couple in the morning, a couple in the afternoon, late afternoon, early evening. That'll get you 4 grams of salt. Other than that, drink at least a half a gallon of water a day. That's minimum. That's 64 ounces. It's about 8 glasses. Since you're not eating any food, because you do get some water from food, You might want to shoot for 10 glasses, but getting 8 glasses I think is the minimum. You got to stay hydrated and you got to keep the electrolytes up. Now, if you really want to stay on top of the electrolytes, you need to do potassium, and so I'm going to tell you what I do. This is what I do. I either make my fasting drink, which is actually a weight loss and electrolyte replenishing drink that I even drink when I'm eating keto. Because, like I say, I like to keep electrolytes up, and I like to do apple cider vinegar. So I'm going to give you a couple of ways to make it. Apple cider vinegar is huge for weight loss. Knocks that blood sugar right down, which allows your insulin to go right down, which insulin is the fat storage hormone, and once it's low, it will release the fat. Previous episodes talk about that. I'm not going to get into that here. I'm just talking about the fasting experience. So here are the 2 ways I get my electrolytes in. I buy the light salt. Morton makes it, I think, but I know they have it at Publix because I just went and bought 2 things of it. And I have a pre-order at Walmart because, you can order now and they'll shop for you. You can pick it up. And I know they have it there because it's in stock and I added it to my basket. So it's light salt, Lite. Light salt is half sodium, which is table salt, and half potassium. It's half and half. And so if you want to choose to do that, one, it helps if you have a scale. But if you don't have a scale, you're going to be wanting to get about 2 to 3 teaspoons of that in a day. 2, I would say, is minimum. Now, on a scale, here's what I do it. Actually, you need 4 because you need 2 for the sodium and 2 for the potassium. So it'd actually be 4 teaspoons a day because it's cut in half. So I make this drink. It's about between 20 and 30 ounces of water. To that, I will add 2 tablespoons of lemon juice and 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. And then I will add 8 grams of light salt, which I believe is going to wind up being about 2 teaspoons of light salt. I measure it out. It's 8 grams and drink that. And so that's, almost a half or a quarter, 64 ounces, I believe, is half a gallon. So it's half of that. So it's half of the liquids I need to drink in a day. And then I'll either do it again, mix that same recipe up again, which is what I like to do because of the apple cider vinegar, and do it again the second half of the day. And then in between the day, I'll just have some regular water, or if I'm needing something with flavor in it, I'll go to one of the flavored things I drink, which sometimes may be a Coke Zero, maybe a Powerade Zero, etc. So it's very important you get that in. If you get that in, it makes fasting so much easier, because a lot of the times during the fasting when you get weak, which is what I'm going to talk about next, it's because you don't have the water and the electrolytes and you did a sucky job at replenishing them. It's not because you need food. So I ran into a situation where Saturday I was out at a pump house trying to get a water filter off, and I was so weak. I was just so weak, and that would have been, day 5. I was so incredibly weak that I tried to get that thing off, and it was winding me. Every time I exerted to try to turn that thing to unscrew it, it felt like 10% of my energy left my body. And then when I tried again, another 10% was on. And the next thing I know, I felt like I was at about 40% of my capacity, and I had to stop. I went in, I sat down, I drank a glass of water, rested up, felt a little bit better, and gave up on it. I'm like, I either just got to put this off or hire somebody to do it, right? So I went and visited some family before I was going to leave town. And after I sat and talked to them for a while and drank a little bit more, I felt better. I'm like, I'm going to go try it again. And I have a great family. They wound up following me out, and we gave it another shot and got through it, got it changed. But when I got back home that afternoon, I really felt like I had just zapped myself that day. And I knew that it was probably because I hadn't stayed on top. I'd played poker for like 14 hours the night before. I didn't get much sleep. I didn't stay on top of the fluids. While I was at the poker room, I should have consumed about 32 ounces of liquid with the salt mixture in it, and I didn't. I was just drinking plain old water. And the day before, I knew that I was probably a little bit dehydrated. And I said all that to say this. When I got home that Saturday night, I should have just went to slugging back the water and electrolytes and then made an extra effort the next morning to get in plenty, and I'd have been fine. But I got a tad worried. I'd felt so weak that I got a tad worried. So, in the official sense of the word, I have not technically fasted for 7 days because on Saturday night, I did consume about 250 calories. It was very high fat with some protein. I didn't feel like it was enough to really ruin things, but I thought it would give me a little bit of peace of mind about my strength. And Sunday, I felt fine. I felt amazing Sunday. And, what I needed was the water and the electrolytes. I didn't need the 250 calories that I ate. And that actually, messed me up mentally because now my brain is back into thinking about food. So I had to go half the day Sunday getting over that. That's the point that I'm making is that if you're going to fast, it's very important that you keep your water up and your electrolytes up. It's going to make the fast so much easier. Most of the weakness you experience will come from lack of electrolytes, primarily potassium, but also sodium. You got to get the sodium and the potassium in. So I'm going to tell you what the diet, and look, do not take my word for this. Again, I want to go back to my disclaimer. I'm not giving medical advice or dietary advice specific for you. I'm sharing my experiences. But if I'm not mistaken, the USDA for sodium, first of all, is very low. That's for people that eat a high-carb diet. People that eat high-carb junk diets, yeah, you shouldn't have much sodium. But if you're eating a ketogenic diet or you're fasting or whatever, you need a lot of sodium. You need about 4 grams a day as a sweet spot, somewhere between 3 and 5 grams of sodium a day, which is 3,000 to 5,000 milligrams. Now, the USDA recommendations for sodium are, I think, 2,000 milligrams, which is 2 grams. It's just way too low. I believe the USDA for potassium, it depends on where I've looked a couple places. I've saw a couple places where it lists at 3,500 milligrams, which is would be 3.5 grams. And then I've seen it listed as high as 4,700 milligrams, which would be 4.7 grams. It's a lot. So that tells you how much you need to be getting in every day. If you don't understand what electrolytes are, they do a ton of things. But the most important things electrolytes do is make the electrical system in your body work. Your body is an electric system. Way before Elon Musk invented Tesla and the amazing electric car that is the Tesla vehicles, a much more impressive and amazing electric vehicle was invented, and it's the human body. Your muscles fire off electrical synapses, your brain fires off of it, your heart fires off of it, and the conductive material that causes the electricity to spark between them is electrolytes, these salts. And there's several of them, potassium and sodium being the major two, but you also have calcium, you also have magnesium. And so as a result, every day or every other day, I also take a magnesium tablet. And you need to get you a high-quality magnesium tablet if you're going to take it. And you need at least 400 milligrams a day. You research what the high quality is. Do all the research on that. Again, I'm not giving medical advice. That's important. As I sit here, as I'm about to do, I'm going to sip from my concoction. I'm going to give you an alteration to the concoction if you're not interested in fooling with apple cider vinegar, because it's not for it does take some getting used to. I will say when you mix it in the concoction I gave you earlier, though, I enjoy it. I think it tastes good, but not everybody will. Allow me to have a sip. To me, it tastes like a really tart, salty lemonade if you make it like I mentioned earlier. Now, if you don't want to try the apple cider vinegar, and I recommend you do, it's going to keep the blood sugar down, which is going to keep the insulin down, which is going to boost the weight loss. And apple cider vinegar has also been shown to suppress hunger, so it helps with that too. Not to mention it flushes the liver and all kind of other great things it does. But you can make the exact same concoction without the apple cider vinegar. You just, do the water, the 20 to 30 ounces or so of water, put you a couple tablespoons of lemon juice in there, the 8 milligrams of light salt, and mix that up and drink it, and it's pretty good. So I don't think I'd have much else to add to week one, except I'm 1/3 the way to my goal, which is 21 days, and I'm very interested to see if I do better this week. I will say this as a disclaimer. I'm in a fortunate position to where I don't have to go work 8 or 10 or 12 hours every day. And I know that makes it harder for people. And so I don't think that means you can't do it if that's one of these people. I just agree that it's easier for me, a little bit easier for me. But now I got a friend, my best friend, Amanda. She does 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 day fasts. She's done several of them, and she works, 8, 10 hours a day, and she's not just active, she's a hyperactive person. So 100% it can be done. But you're going to have to stay on top of the fatigue thing. And staying on top of the fatigue thing is staying hydrated and keeping those electrolytes up, especially if you're outside sweating. You got to add even more. This is just if you go through your day and you don't break a sweat. If you're a person that goes through a day and you break a sweat, you got to up it from, the 64 ounces minimum, to 100 ounces, 120 ounces. 128 ounces, a whole gallon, whatever. I mean, that water that comes out has got to be replaced. And when you sweat out, have you ever tasted sweat? Sweat is salty. You're losing salt. You pee out salt and you sweat out salt. And when you're fasting and there is no more sugar stored anywhere in your body, there's no more glycogen stores in your liver or in your muscles. It's all depleted. Your body does not need the water for that anymore. Most of the water your body retains, well, I don't know if I could say most, but a ton of the water your body retains is for one sole purpose, to suspend glycogen. For every 1 gram of glycogen or glucose you have, you're going to have almost 4 grams of water. So it's a 4-to-1 ratio. So, let's say you manage to pee out 200 grams of water. Or burn up 200 grams of glycogen. Well, your body no longer now has need of 800 grams of water, and it's going to flush it. And when it flushes it, it's going to take electrolytes with it. When you get out and you work up a sweat, you are sweating out electrolytes and water. You got to replace that. So for a person like me who doesn't sweat that much, the minimum I need to do is the half a gallon of water a day. But if you're out there sweating and, you're losing the electrolytes and water even more, then you got to pump even more water back in. Now, you're going to keep the electrolytes won't change. You're not going to go up on the electrolytes, but you got to go up on the water. Okay? You got to go from a half a gallon to 3/4 of a gallon to a gallon of water a day if you're sweating out a lot of it. So remember to stay on top of that. Now, you don't keep raising the electrolytes up. You're going to keep the electrolytes in that same range that I talked about earlier. So that's the end of my 1-week fasting report. Over 10 pounds the first week. I was really hoping to lose 25, 26, 27 pounds on my 21-day fast. That's what I'm hoping will happen. We'll see. Well, first I got to make it 21 days. But if I make it 21 days, that's what I'm hoping will happen. So that is my 7-day fasting update. I feel fantastic today. My brain is super clear. My body feels really good. I had a wave of hunger come through about an hour ago. Lasted about 15 minutes and it was gone. But other than that, I feel fantastic. And thanks so much for listening. If this has helped you, share it. By all means, subscribe in the ways I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast and follow us on social media. Fat Guy Podcast is the username. Thanks so much.